Welcome to Average Disnerd, a Disney talk show with your host, the Average Disnerd, Danny Bogue, and not-so-average guests. This week's guest, Tessa from Mama's Geeky. So for a while, my show has been doing this thing. It's just the way that the world works, I guess. Just my luck is that for the past literally 6 months, I would say, all right, I'm setting a date forth for a podcast recording. We'll talk about X thing. But then there's almost always breaking news the day of, and today is no different.
Yes, I know, exactly.
That's just the way I guess this media cycle works with Disney and all. But I'm assuming you've seen the announcement from Pixar today about Pete Docter's new movie?
Yes, Soul.
Out of nowhere. I think what's the most surprising thing to me is, how have we not heard about this? It's coming out a year from today, and they've kept this whole movie under wraps. That's bananas. I don't think that's how they normally do things, you know?
No, we've gotten absolutely nothing. I mean, no, like, we just got kind of a title image today. That's it. No teaser trailers, like, no even, we're kind of doing this thing, like hinting at stuff, which often we'll see people hinting at a new movie, and we have yet to get that. So I was completely shocked, and I didn't believe it when I first saw the first tweet. I said, that is fake. It is not real. And I was like, there's no way this is coming out a year from now, and we knew nothing about it. And I was wrong.
Well, especially considering that next year Pixar already has a movie coming out. They've got the Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, what is it called?
Onward,
no,
right? Or
Onward,
is it Onward or
yes.
Upward? Onward, I think, yeah.
Onward. And we just got a trailer for that, I feel like maybe a month ago. So I heard that. I'm like, oh, whatever, that's fine. And now here we are with a Pete Docter movie. And I'm not sure about you, but Pete Docter is like one of my favorite directors from Pixar.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I totally agree. So I'm very intrigued, and I can't wait to get some kind of teaser, an image, something, because we really know nothing except the name at this point.
It's so great to talk about on a podcast, not having many details.
Right. We have zero details. We have a name for you. We can speculate everything. I mean, my mind immediately went to Inside Out, and I was like, does this have anything to do with, will it connect Inside Out somehow? I don't know. I hope there's at least, I'm sure there'll be Easter eggs, because there's Easter eggs in everything.
Which we'll talk about with today's movie later on for sure.
Yes.
But no, I totally agree. It sounds almost, even if it is not a direct sequel to Inside Out, it sounds like a spiritual, a soulful sequel to Inside Out, where it's about the pitch. I think what I read was about like what makes people who they are, and what is passion, and what drives people. Some really deep themes, especially for ostensibly a children's movie, but they've done it before. So I'm really, this just shot up to the top of my list for next year.
Yeah, I'm excited. I might be more excited than I am for Onward, which is kind of crazy to say, but I loved Inside Out so much, and I really feel like this has that feel to it, and I'm very intrigued, and I need to know everything now.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like we were just saying about like how we don't know anything about it, and you just want to know so much more right now. I've thought about this a lot recently, where you look at this year of Disney in Hollywood. We've got Toy Story 4, we've got Endgame, we've got Captain Marvel. Later this year, there's Star Wars, and there's Frozen 2, and there's The Lion King, and Aladdin. Like, I can go on and on and on, and we know so much about this blockbuster tentpole year, and next year, we know nothing. We know so little about their lineup for next year. Marvel hasn't said a word. Pixar, now we're getting more info. It's just so funny to me that in years past, we knew about 2019 back in 2017 for the most part. But now it's 2019 and we don't really know much about 2020. So that leads me to believe that maybe Disney's got something like big planned, and maybe, I don't know, D23 or Comic-Con. But I would have to assume we're going to have to start learning about these movies pretty soon.
Yeah, I imagine D23 is going to be all about it. Probably Comic-Con. I'm still salty they moved Artemis Fowl. That's the whole thing. I'm not happy about it. But I'm really looking forward. They did. It was supposed to be August, and now it's like May next year.
Oh, wow.
I'm very annoyed. I love those books, but, I'm hoping it's so that they can do it right. I know that's one thing I know about next year. But yeah, Marvel's been such a secret too, and I think at first I thought it was, well, they're going to give us everything they can after Endgame, and we still don't really know anything, and it's driving me bananas.
Well, I mean, I will say Spider-Man comes out a month and change before D23 and a few weeks before Comic-Con, so I don't know. Maybe there's more of a thread to pull with Spider-Man, because Kevin Feige said before that Far From Home is the end of Phase 3. That Endgame is not the end of Phase 3, but Spider-Man is. So who knows? Maybe there's going to be like a little accent point at the end of this movie that we weren't really expecting.
I hope so, because I'm ready for more, and Marvel is my thing. So I've read comic books since I was a little girl. Like, Marvel is my jam. So I'm dying for more, and I can't wait to know what's going to happen next. But I still, I'm hoping, like you said, D23 is about a month after. That gives people plenty of time to have seen it, with them able to give announcements, so without being like spoilery. So hopefully we'll get more soon.
Well, you see, you say that Marvel is your jam, and this is why I have you on the show. You are amongst friends, myself, and I'm sure plenty of my listeners are big Marvel fans. We had a big Endgame episode. But I should have you back on when Spider-Man and we get more Marvel nerdiness. We'll talk more Marvel. But today, we have to talk about some very special toys.
Yes. Oh, very, very special toys that have my heart.
Well, let's get into that. Sup, nerds? Welcome to this week's episode of Average Diz Nerd. A few weeks ago, I was honored to be invited by my friend and previous guest of the show that you may remember from the Captain Marvel review, Amy. She invited me to go visit Disney's Hollywood Studios for an early press event and screening of Toy Story 4. Now, Toy Story, of course, means a lot of things to a lot of people, so this was a pretty big night for everyone involved. And at this event, I had the chance to make a lot of new friends, and one of those friends is here to review the movie with me this week. From mamasgeeky.com, welcoming to the show, Tessa. Tessa, how you doing?
Oh, I'm so good. It's Toy Story 4 day, and I get to go see it again with my family again, and I'm so excited. I've been dying to watch it for a second time since the moment the movie ended.
I hope you are bringing your tissue box with you, because this is definitely, I think, a movie that warrants it.
Yeah, it's going to be harder the second time around, I think. It's just like most movies are. Once you know what's coming, it's almost harder to get through.
Yeah, I've been rewatching not a Disney thing, but Big Little Lies. Caitlin got me into Big Little Lies, and she had seen season 1, and I had never seen it. And as we're watching it, she's like, like gasping because she knows the end, and I'm like, okay, I don't know.
It's so funny you brought that up, because I just binged that last week, right before, or 2 weeks ago, right before the Toy Story 4 event. And I told myself I kind of want to watch it again, because it'd be interesting to watch it again, knowing what's going to happen. So that's funny you brought that up.
Yeah, and you're right to bring it up from Pixar, because man, Pixar, they're one of those studios that I buy a lot of their movies because I want to rewatch them over and over. Like we referenced Inside Out. I think Inside Out is like a study in screenwriting. So I can't tell you how many times I've obsessed over that. And I think Toy Story 4 could be in that pantheon as well. I want to set some early expectations for you at home. If you have not yet seen the movie, please do not fret. It is okay. We are going to talk spoiler-free first. We're going to give you some impressions of the movie, kind of our basic review without giving away too many details. And I will give you tons of warning if you're driving, if you're washing dishes, if you can't pause at that very moment. I will give you opportunity to pause before we get into our spoilery section. But needless to say, if you haven't seen the movie, just don't listen to the spoilers. There's some really good reveals in here, so I don't want you to ruin it. So with that, Tessa, you said that the toys have a very special place in your heart. What did you think of this movie? This has been, I guess, 25 years in the making at this point. So with all of that preamble of, a huge portion of our lives seeing these movies, what was your first initial impression walking out of the theater?
So walking out of the theater, I was like I said, I want to watch it again immediately, right now. I was so pleased because when it was first announced, probably 5 years ago, I was like, I don't know that we need a Toy Story 4. Toy Story 3 for me was a perfect ending, and I think a lot of people felt that way. I cried intensely at the end of Toy Story 3. I still do whenever I watch it. I've seen it probably 20 times. I still sob like a baby at the end.
It's ugly cry for sure.
the first time I saw it, I was pregnant, and I remember my niece said, "Don't cry, Auntie. It's okay. They have a new home now." I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
It was horrible. I was like, I wanted Woody to go to college with Andy. I don't want him to be with Bonnie. But like I said, I was very nervous, and after watching Toy Story 4, I can 100% say I feel like we needed this story. I really, truly do. And when we interviewed Josh Cooley after seeing the movie, he actually said Woody and Andy's story ended with Toy Story 3, but Woody still had story to tell. And that really hit me in the feels, like in the heart. I was like, yes, you are so right. Fans of Woody needed this, and I think Woody deserved it.
Yeah, it is I mean, I'm right there with you from the initial reaction. When they announced it, it felt just like, guys, we put the bow on it. Like you said, we ugly cried, and we had a very intense emotional reaction in the theater, and it felt so perfect. But I think that the difference was that we were viewing it from the lens of that story. That story was ending. Now that I've walked out of the theater, I'm not sure I'm as high as you on like that we needed it, but man, now if we're gonna do this movie, if this movie is gonna exist and Disney's gonna make it, I think they did a really good job. I went in pretty skeptical, but I had a grin on my face the whole time. Well, not the whole time. There were some scenes I didn't, but for the most part, I had a grin on my face.
Yeah, I laughed so hard. I mean, there were moments I cried because I cried, but there were moments I was crying because I was laughing so hard. Like Key and Peele's characters, Ducky and Bunny, absolutely killed me.
Gosh.
And every single thing they did was hilarious.
I love Key and Peele already as it is. So when that first trailer came out showing their characters, as soon as they opened their mouths, I was like, oh, sold, done. Ducky and Bunny are my new favorite Toy Story characters. And you're right. It's almost, maybe I just have to go back and rewatch all three original Toy Stories. I've always found them funny, obviously, but I was a kid for two of them.
Yeah.
This was an outright riot. Like I was nearly cry laughing. I thought the humor was it was almost like contemporary, like how like humor evolves over time, and like where we are in 2019 right now, the humor that either, people that the age of the people that directed this movie and wrote this movie, but also the humor, I think, of younger kids. Like not to give it away, but there's a really funny bit with Ducky and Bunny where they go through a different plot, or a different idea about how to handle a situation.
Yes.
And that just, it didn't seem like Toy Story humor to me, but I couldn't stop laughing. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, no, that perfectly fits. This is in character for this series.
Well, I noticed the whole theater laughing, like even the kids, because there was a lot of kids there, adults. My mom was there and she was cracking up. So I thought it was great. And then what really surprised me was there are literal jump scares in this movie. And
oh my gosh, yes.
I jumped, had a heart attack, and then started cracking up. And I think everyone in the theater did at the same time. It was just not what I was expecting, but absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think right now. Like, I struggle to come up with what genre I would put Toy Story in, and the closest thing I can think of is like a buddy cop movie, because
Yeah.
Buzz and Woody, like they're just two friends and they're going on an adventure and whatever. But that's the closest I can think of. But the genre, it's not news to, I think, many people that the people at Pixar love movies. Yes, they make animated movies, but they just love movies, period. And you could see it throughout so many of their films, from references to films from the 40s to contemporary references. I mean, heck, Toy Story 2 has an Empire Strikes Back reference in it. So, like, you can see how much they love film. And in this movie, horror might be a strong word, but maybe like thriller, like how, like when I was like 11, I was like, I don't like horror movies, but I like thriller movies. Like,
right.
there are scary parts of this movie that kind of made me like, I kind of looked around at the kids. I'm like, I'm scared. You guys okay?
I know. I asked my girls too. And for whatever reason, they were like, no, like that didn't scare me. It made me jump, but it didn't scare me. I was like, I'm terrified right now. Like, I don't know what's going on. Oh man. But it was just everything. I feel like everything in the movie just came together. We got, like you said, so many different genres in one movie It was hilarious. It was so heartwarming and heartfelt. And there's so many good lessons for kids. And it's just, talking with my girls leaving, they're 6 and 7, and they had so many things they needed to tell me that they felt like they learned from Toy Story 4. And I was like,
wow,
you're right. Like, oh, you're right. And I don't know, I feel like it's perfect for everyone. Kids, adults, kids at heart, just everyone.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak too ill of other movies or studios that I've seen movies from, but there have been, I think, in the late '90s, early 2000s, once Toy Story pioneered CG animated films, what Toy Story did so well was that it, like you said, it is a movie for everybody. There are things for children, there are things for adults, but it never insults either of their intelligence. Like kids are respected, and they're given very heavy themes to kind of cope with and deal with and understand. And then adults also have humor and same thing, themes that make them as adults think. But I think that other studios saw that and went, oh, okay, here's what we do. We make a kids movie, but then we make like kind of adult, almost risque jokes that only adults will get, and then we'll put them in the same movie. But that doesn't mesh well. It feels almost like you're watching two different movies that happen to be on the same screen. Whereas this, I could take my two nieces. They're 4 and 2. I could take both of them, and sure, like there might be some jump scares and whatever, but I still think that they would leave going like, I want a bunny, I want a Woody, I want a Bo Peep or whatever, because these characters really just speak to, well, to be punny, children of all ages.
Yeah, you're so right. And it's funny you say about wanting something, because my 6-year-old has been nonstop. She wants a Gabby Gabby so bad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And both of us went into this movie like, oh, Forky's going to be our favorite character. We're going to love Forky. And we both came out going, I think Gabby Gabby's our new favorite. She might be.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of, is there anything else that we want to, or that we can talk about before we get into spoilers? Because obviously
I get so nervous
I don't want to ruin anything for people.
I know, because it's such you have to experience it yourself,
I mean, so here's something I will say, in the negative front. That's something maybe I didn't really land the way that I would want it to. Toy Story movies previously for me have been about the ensemble. They've been about, sure, it stars Woody and Buzz and like their relationship, and other characters come in, but you get a lot of ancillary characters like Mr. Potato Head and Slinky Dog and Rex and the Green Army Men and so on and so on and so on. That's why I think some of the marketing before has just been a poster full of toys, because each character is so well developed. If I were to like nitpick a couple of things that I might not love about this movie, is it was just disappointing that I feel like I didn't get enough time with the toys that I love. We were introduced to a lot of new characters, like you referenced Gabby Gabby, who I think is a fantastic character. Duke Kaboom. How have we not gotten to Duke Kaboom yet?
Oh my God, Duke Kaboom is amazing. I don't know. He's
Year
incredible.
of Keanu.
Yes.
And we'll talk about them, but I guess just to put my point on it, it was a little disappointing to me, because when you bring all those new characters in, whom I all love, it kind of ends up taking time away from other characters that I've loved for 20 some odd years at this point. So I wish I would have seen more of, say, Jessie or Bullseye, or, again, I understand that there are challenges, because unfortunately some of these actors and actresses have passed away in the recent years, so their hands were kind of tied. But there are other characters I'm like, oh man, maybe that's my own problem. It's the nostalgia of my childhood that I want to watch more of. But for new kids, like you just said, that your daughter wants a Gabby Gabby now.
Yeah, I know. And because you're right, there are so many new characters. I mean, we have Ducky and Bunny. We have Giggle McDimples. She's amazing. We got Duke
her.
Kaboom. I mean, we had a lot of new characters. Benson, which is the name of the ventriloquist dummy, which I don't like. I am not a fan. But, that was a new character. And it just, I know what you mean, because really there was very limited, like you said, Jessie and Bullseye. Buzz even felt a little limited, although when I think back on it, I think he was actually in it more than I thought he was at first, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because when I start to think back on everything that happened, I'm like, oh no, Buzz was around for that. Okay. Oh yeah, he was there. But I totally see where you're coming from, but I did love every new character. And I think in order to really introduce us to them, fingers crossed, that means maybe we'll get more of them in the future. I did know for a fact we're getting more Forky. I don't know if you've heard that yet. They said it at our interview, so I'm not sure if you did hear, but Forky is getting his own Disney Plus series, which I'm very excited about.
What? Oh, I am.
Yes, it's called like Questions Forky Asks, I believe, and it's like 10 episodes, and they said it is hilarious.
Okay, so I have a theory about Forky. I don't think that this deserves to go in spoilers, but so if you've seen the trailer, unless you're like me, you watch trailers. I don't really watch trailers. But in the trailer for Toy Story, there's a moment in which you see Forky, our new Spork toy friend, and he thinks he's trash because, you know, you would think he is. He's a Spork. He thinks he's trash. And throughout the movie, he keeps saying, I'm trash. And it's like he almost can't say anything else. He's like, his language is just, I'm trash, I'm trash. And guys, $1 million idea. If you have the means to do this, $1 million idea right now, I want a t-shirt that literally just in like, maybe the font looks like Forky, or maybe you can put Forky on it. I don't know. But I just need a t-shirt that says, I'm trash, because I think millennials will buy that so fast. We say it on Twitter. We say it in the real world. I'm trash, you're trash, whatever. Trash is just such like a joke in like our generation that as soon as like I saw him keep saying that in the movie, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a meme, or it's gonna be a t-shirt. It's gonna be something big. So maybe I'm wrong, but by the time you're listening to this, the movie will be out. Let's check Twitter. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised. So.
So yeah, what other new characters? So Forky is, I think, a blast, played by Tony Hale. So if you're an Arrested Development fan,
yes, I am.
So charming and honestly heartwarming. Like, you know, he's a really funny character, but there is a scene or two where you go, oh, you're just empathetic as well.
Yeah. Oh man, I loved Forky so much. And Tony Hale said when he was talking about him, how he's just this little neurotic, obsessed guy who can't figure anything out. And he actually referenced a couple of his characters, his character in Veep and Buster Bluth, and said, you know, they could all be a little neurotic Avengers together because they're almost the same character. And I was like, I kind of want to see that show. Can we make that happen? Because I would watch
with Disney
that.
Plus, they'll make anything now. So
I know.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's a nervous little wreck, and I love him. Like, as soon as when I saw the trailer originally, and I saw him in the teaser, I'm like, I don't know, that kind of seems a little weird, right? I walked out going, I am a Forky stan. I totally support him.
Yes. Oh man, I loved him, and like I thought from the beginning he was going to be my favorite, and he just barely got beat out by Gabby Gabby, but I still love me some Forky.
So let's talk about Gabby Gabby. She, again, spoilers.
I know, it's hard.
I think my favorite thing about Gabby Gabby is she is an emotionally complex character in this series. They kind of set her up one way and it doesn't end up the same way, you know? And as I started watching that thread pull and that whole character unfold, I went, you're not going where I thought you were going to go. And I'm really, really happy with where you're going with her.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her. Like you said, she was very complex. And I feel like we learned a lot from her. And that's actually what my daughters talked a lot about, was how much they actually learned from Gabby Gabby. There was multiple things they said, and they've nonstop been talking about her. They can't wait to go see Toy Story 4 again, mainly because they said they really want to see Gabby Gabby again. And I'm interested in watching her story from the beginning now, knowing how her story ends up.
Oh, yeah. That's, again, just seeing how the character unfolds. You know, when you watch a movie and you're just guessing the whole time and you don't really know what you're thinking because you're trying to keep an eye on the plot and understand what events are happening, but you're also trying to understand the character. Yeah, that'd be very interesting to rewatch, just basically staring at her and going, what are you doing? What's going on in your head?
Exactly. I know.
Your porcelain head.
I'm very intrigued to see it again. That is for sure.
And let's see, who else? Oh, Duke Kaboom. Man, oh man. when I, again, maybe this is just my own biases, but like I saw the trailer and I chuckled, I think, because he's in the trailer at one point and they show one joke with Dukaboom. And I chuckled. I'm like, oh, that's cute. He's funny. He had me cry laughing. He was hilarious. And Keanu Reeves, of all people, to play him, you know, you think of Keanu Reeves, you think of Neo, you think of John Wick, you think of, well, maybe Bill and Ted.
That's what I was going to say. That's more on point here.
Yeah, and that's what he's more like. He's way, way more silly than I ever anticipated for this. And he's a riot.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was going to be serious from maybe not completely serious, but, you know, from the trailers we saw, I thought he was going to be more of a serious character. And he just, every single thing he said had me cracking up. His whole thing, you get his little backstory, and I was cracking up, dying, laughing. Like, I just couldn't help it, you know? He was very funny.
Yeah, and he comes in somewhat later in the movie, to the point where I forgot that he was in the movie. And then as soon as he showed up, I'm like, oh, yes, Keanu Reeves is now in a Toy Story movie, and my life is complete.
Yes, and he's so very over-the-top Canadian, and I absolutely love it. We go to Canada a couple times a year, and it just reminded me of, like, people I've met there, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's perfectly Canadian.
That is fantastic. Are we? Oh, well. So we talked about Ducky and Bunny. Are we missing any new characters before we?
Giggle McDimples, maybe a little bit.
Oh, Giggle McDimples. Yes. So who plays Giggle McDimples? I don't think I've heard her name that much.
So Allie Mackey is her name. I actually Disney bounded as Giggle McDimples. I thought for sure she was going to be one of my favorites as well, which she was awesome. She's also in Cloak and Dagger. I'm not sure if you've watched Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, but she has a smallish role in that show. So I was excited when I heard that she was voicing Giggle, because I knew who she was, and again, Marvel fan, so I was a big fan of hers. So I was happy to see that, and she's just the nicest person. I Disney bounded as her, like I said, and I posted an Instagram picture, and she shared it in her Instagram stories. And was
that's
like,
so cool.
This made my day, with a cry face. I was like, oh my God, I love you.
She was you're right. She wasn't the biggest role, but man, every time she was on screen, I was just giggling the whole time. She plays this. What type of toy is she? She's like
a Polly Pocket, kind of, is what I would call her. She's a very tiny little police officer, and she has her little house at the one point. And immediately I thought of, oh, I used to have all these little Polly Pockets, and that's exactly what I thought of her as. And she's Bo's like sidekick, best friend.
Yeah, she plays, you're right, Polly Pocket's a really good way of putting it, because when I think of Polly Pocket, my sister had those growing up, and, you know, they're cutesy little doll things. From what I remember, I think the typical idea is that she's a little girl doll, but she is this rough and tumble, like, super confident, like, cop that just wants to, like, go on a case and, like, find the bad guys and just, like, what do you need, Chief? I got you. And it's just really charming. I love it.
Well, one of my favorite parts, and I don't think this is spoilery, but when she first met Woody and she looked at Bo and she's like, hey, you told me about this guy. Now, don't you go back. You know, she was very protective of her friend. Like, wait a minute, is this the guy you told me about? All right, well, let's make sure you don't, you know, mess up. Don't go falling in love again, basically. And I thought it was really cute. And actually, when I interviewed Annie Potts, who is Bo, she said that Giggle was very much a representation of your best friend that's always on your shoulder, always there, ready to listen. And because that's where Giggle sits, really, most of the time is on Bo's shoulder.
Literally.
Literally.
Well, actually, that's a good transition before we move on. Like, let's talk about Bo Peep. I think that was they released an image of Bo, what was that, 6 months ago or so? It was like a while ago. And you see this picture that she looks nothing like she did. Obviously, her face looks the same, but they changed her costume design to make a pretty bold statement about who she is as a character. What did you think about how they handled her growth in this movie?
Well, I absolutely loved it, but when I first saw Bo, I was like, what's going on here? Like, when they released her image, I was like, she better not be a villain. She looks like she's been through some hard times. I immediately thought she was going to be a villain when I saw her, because I was like, there's something up with her. I'm not sure how I feel about her. And, you know, you come to find out it's just from being a lost toy for a while. You know, we didn't see her in Toy Story 3. I did love that at the very beginning of Toy Story 4, they kind of show us what happened to her, because we didn't know. We just knew she was gone and not part of, the toys and Andy's home anymore. And so I was happy to see, now we know. We get to know what actually happened to her. And I kind of loved it. I cried a little bit because I cried everything. But I was happy to see that. And I kind of loved how they made her so strong. And, she's embraced what she's been given. And I kind of love that. Again, I thought it was a really good lesson.
Yeah. We talked earlier about the idea that this movie, that there's a story here to be told that should have been told. And I remember seeing Toy Story 3, and one of the first things that I walked out of, like negatively out of the theater, there wasn't a lot, but one thing that I kind of just scoffed at, I went, so wait, they just wrote Bo Peep off? Like there was one line where Woody's just like, oh yeah, we lost her too, and he was sad and all, but then they just moved on. I was like, oh, that seemed like, I don't know, like a bump in the road where it should have been a pretty bigger deal. So now you look at this movie, and you're right, that opening scene, as soon as that opening scene starts, seeing how she got separated from everybody, I loved that. That to me was almost enough payoff where I went, oh, okay, thank you. So I had this question 7 years ago, and here we are, finally getting this answer. I really appreciated that. And then, obviously, the rest of the movie is her just, evolving from that and learning to not only... So off screen, before this movie begins, she's learned a lot about how to be a lost toy. But I think the message of this movie is kind of learning kind of that fine balance between both of those things. So that was good to see.
It was. I was really pleased to see that. And I feel like I thought more through Toy Story 4. Oh, I'm realizing if I go back and watch Toy Story 3, I think Woody was a little more upset than he let on. I think he kind of buried it, is what it seemed like, because this whole time it seemed like, when he gets reminded of Bo, he goes to a place, and I think he buried it within himself, which I was happy to see him unbury it. I don't know if that's spoilery or not, but
well, actually that's a really good spot. Let's go from there and let's go into spoilers. So if you have not yet seen Toy Story 4, I'm going to give you some time to pause, skip, whatever, change to something else, play some music, because we're about to jump into spoilers for Toy Story 4. Now, before we do, I do want to just take a quick moment. If you've been listening to the show recently, previously on ADN, I had Len Testa from Touring Plans on, and we briefly discussed Pride Month. So it is currently June, and this episode will post towards June 21st. It'll be the end of June where this episode posts. And so June is National Pride Month, and I wanted to take the opportunity with the show to kind of celebrate that and honor it. So what I did, if you haven't seen on Twitter or Instagram, a while ago I made stickers of the podcast logo. It's, a little Mickey Mouse with some sunglasses, and it was red. I kind of used Mickey Mouse colors to make the logo design itself. But for Pride Month, I decided I wanted to help celebrate that by making a Pride variant of the sticker. So I redesigned it. I made a rainbow version for Pride, and I'm selling them for $2.50. Now, the reason I'm selling them, I'm not taking any of this money. I'm selling them because I want to take all of that money and donate it to a local LGBTQ plus nonprofit. So there is a charity here in Orlando, Florida, that serves Central Florida youth from the ages of 13 to 24. Their name is the Zebra Coalition. So Google them. I'll put them in the show notes. They are an amazing organization that offers different services to youth in the LGBTQ plus community that need help. So this can be all sorts of different things. This can be a community center where they can be around people that they can make friends with and just have like kind of fellowship with. There are mental health services that they offer as well, where they will help counsel you. But then also, this is pretty unfortunate, but if there are young people who come out to their family as gay, unfortunately, there are moments in which those families turn them away and they kick them out of their homes, which is extremely unfortunate. But Zebra does something where they will give them resources and take them in. So again, I mean, I can go on and on about Zebra. They are an amazing organization. But what I'm doing this month is I'm selling these stickers on Twitter and Instagram. You can just DM me to get all the details. They're $2.50, and I'll mail one out to you. Or honestly, however many you want. Every dollar that you spend is going to go directly to Zebra Coalition. Right now, we're already over $650 for the month. We've only been going for about 2 or 3 weeks, and we're over $650. I would love to hit $1,000 by the end of the month. So I will be selling these throughout June. So if it is June right now and you are listening to the show and you want to help donate money to this charity, and if you would also just love a really cool sticker, I've been getting a lot of really great feedback. Just people love the design. So if you'd like to get one of these and help out a great cause, I will put the details in the show notes, but basically follow me on Twitter or Instagram. @AverageDisNerd is where you can find me for both of those. Shoot me a DM and I will send you the details. Basically, I just need you to Venmo me or PayPal or whatever. Get me $250 and then I will get you a sticker.
And I actually have one on my computer and I love it.
That's awesome.
So thank you for that.
You are so very welcome. Thank you. All right. Well, hopefully that plug was enough time for you to pause. If you have not seen this movie, let's talk about spoilers. Where do we even begin with this? Do you want to go like in order of the plot, or are there specific things you want to bring up?
I don't know. I guess we could go in order of the plot. That might be easiest if I can remember.
I know it was like weeks ago that we saw this movie.
I know.
So it starts off, like we said, with that scene of them getting broken apart. And it got me really nervous because as soon as that scene starts and you see them say goodbye to each other, I started to get a little emotional. And I went, oh, Pixar, don't do this to me again. Seriously, like...
It's in the first 10 minutes of every movie. They break your heart. You're like, what are you doing? I can't go on. I have to watch another hour and a half of this. But I felt the same way. And actually one of my major things I wrote about in my spoiler review was the fact that Woody he kind of almost went with Bo. He really thought about it, and I think he really would have gone if Andy didn't come out looking for him. And I feel like Woody, like I said, I think he buried it. I think he thought a lot about what if I had gone with Bo, and I really think Bo never left his mind, and I think that's why they started off like that, so we really would see that about Woody, that yeah, we might not have seen much of her or any of her in Toy Story 3, but Bo has never left Woody's mind. And actually when I interviewed Tom Hanks, he said Woody has known since the moment he laid eyes on Bo that she was the toy for him. And I was like, I'm gonna cry. Don't say that.
And especially when you hear Tom Hanks say it, like, I don't know, Tom Hanks is just America's father figure. He can be in anything and he'll make me cry.
I know. I think he's made me cry in everything that he's been in. So.
This is very true. So they have their split up moment, but then it kind of jumps forward in time, and there's a little montage that brings us through the years of movies that we've seen, and we're back to Bonnie. And I found it very interesting that they were playing Woody as almost like he was jealous of Buzz initially in the first Toy Story. They were kind of doing the same thing where Woody was trying to realize, I'm not the favorite anymore, and I can't. And honestly, from a screenwriting perspective, he shouldn't be the favorite. That would be boring.
Right. I know.
It was very interesting seeing how he was handling what that would be like. And then, of course, Bonnie creates Forky, which I think gave him some purpose,
Yeah, I think he became kind of like Forky's father. Like, he was able to have a toy that he was going to lead again because he was not the leader of Bonnie's room. He got his first dust bunny in her closet, remember?
Oh
Which was
gosh.
kind of heartbreaking.
That scene was so funny, especially because I ended up looking at IMDb later, and some of the characters in that closet,
it's like Betty White,
like Betty White and Mel Brooks, and these old comedy legends that had a scene that lasted all of 2 minutes, and it was hilarious.
Oh, it's so funny. I can't wait to watch it again now. But I felt for Woody in the moment, and so I think when he kind of became like a father figure to Forky, like, okay, I'm going to teach you. This is what you're supposed to do. You're Bonnie's toy now. You were brought to life because she needed you. Because that was another sad moment. Oh, especially, I'm just thinking of it now.
Yes.
Having kids, this poor girl, no one wants to be her friend in kindergarten or wherever she is, preschool. It was awful. Nobody was talking to her, and they took her arts and crafts right off her table. And that's Woody had to go get stuff out of the trash for her to make Forky. Oh, that's so sad.
Well, so it's funny because I thought a lot about how Woody is almost the stand-in, at least in movie 3 and 4, maybe 2 and 1 as well, that he's a stand-in for parents, that he goes through a lot of the problems that parents go through. So like a parent, let's say in the first movie, a parent might have a kid that loves them so much, and that's their kid, to use the language that Toy Story uses. That's their kid. But then their kid makes a friend, and then they're no longer potentially, like, they're not getting the attention that they once got because their kid's growing up and their kids, finding new people and so on and so forth. I kind of watched this movie, and while I was watching it, I'm like, he said goodbye to his kid because his kid went to college, Yeah, that's what parents do.
You're going to make me cry. It's awful. I know. My kids are getting older and older by the minute. As a matter of fact, at that moment, I turned to my daughter and I said, "Do you have friends in class?" Like, I was very concerned for her. I will make you a friend if you do not.
Yeah, and that's what it was like. It was so interesting because he says goodbye to Andy going to college, but now he's almost like he has no purpose. You know how the empty nest syndrome, like I remember with like me and my sister went to college and my mom and dad didn't have kids in the house anymore. And it was just a weird moment where they were like, well, what do we have to figure this out now because we had 2 kids in our house for 22 years. And now we've got to figure out what is life like afterward. And that's kind of, I think, the story that they were trying to tell. And then weaved in with him seeing, oh, I'm a parent at the end of the day. Like Woody is trying to make sure that Bonnie can make friends.
And literally make friends.
Literally make them.
I mean, do you think about it? Remember when she's like snuggling with Forky and Forky keeps trying to go in the trash and Woody keeps throwing him out of the trash back and forth for like 5 minutes. Forky jumps in the trash and Woody sleeps in the trash can so that he can throw Forky back up on her bed.
You know what's funny about that scene now that you say it? So when Toy Story came out, I was 5 years old. That's when the first movie came out. So I don't know. I just have fond memories of the Randy Newman music and You Got a Friend in Me and so on and so forth. I listen to it all the time. Watching this movie as a 29-year-old, I heard Randy Newman music playing in the middle of a montage and I went, oh, that's weird. But then I realized, no, it's not. They do this all the time. That's like a thing that these movies do. It's just, I don't know, maybe just with age, I'm now watching it and going, I thought I was watching a very emotional movie. Oh, no, I am. But it is also interlaced with Randy Newman happy-go-lucky tunes.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I never thought about that. I'll pay more attention the second time I watch it. And see if it's weird.
So he has Forky now, and Bonnie has Forky. And that was his goal, to just like always protect Forky. And of course, you're watching the movie and you go, something's gonna happen to Forky.
Yeah, I know. Like jump out of a moving RV, maybe. Possibly,
yeah. I really loved that scene with Woody just walking down the street with Forky once he found him. That was the moment where I went, oh, Forky's not just the butt of a joke. He is going to be used in emotional ways as well.
Yeah, and just the conversation they had there was very much Woody as a father figure and explaining. And I think at one point he even slips up and he says Andy instead of Bonnie. Yes. And then Forky's like, wait, who's Andy? And so then Woody tells his story and Forky's like, oh, you're just like me. Your purpose has been served already. And it's like, you're trash, basically. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that for Woody. Poor Woody is, like we said before, he's not the favorite. He's not even not the favorite. He's left in the closet often. He's not even really played with. Bonnie takes his sheriff's badge away from him and gives it to Jessie,
Yes.
And Jessie gives it back because she's a sweetheart. But, it's very just in that moment, I was like, okay, Woody is clearly the father figure here. But Forky, in true, nature, Forky is even teaching him a lesson, just like sometimes children teach parents lessons, you know?
Oh my gosh. See, I'm not a parent, so you're here now, like, hitting me in the feels.
Yeah.
Just as an uncle.
Well, it's the stuff I realized, and I was like looking at my daughter. There was a few moments she was crying, and I would ask her why, and again, it's a little later on, but it's Gabby really, really touched her, so... and then it taught me things, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to cry the whole rest of this movie now.
Yeah, it's funny because I met you right outside of the theater, and then the next time we saw each other was at dinner right following the movie, and it's almost like I could tell, like, wow, we've all just been through a lot tonight.
Yeah, right? We were instantly bonded because we all had been through the same up and down roller coaster of emotions.
So you brought up Gabby. Let's talk about all of those characters, because once they got to the RV park, they walk by the antique shop, which also, by the way, before we get to the antique shop, just the scenes with the sun rising as they're walking nearby the antique shop and the lighting, it made me go, God, the amount of, I'm a nerd. So in my perspective, I'm looking at like the computing processing power that they are dumping at this movie. They looked like real toys, like obviously a little stylized, but if they wanted to do a completely photorealistic movie, they totally could. They totally could. Insane how beautiful this movie is.
Well, it's crazy to go back and watch the first one after the fourth one. I watched
where they couldn't show humans
when I got home. Yeah, and I was like, what is going on here? This is like, what a difference. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love it, but it's such a difference, and you can tell that the animation, all that stuff has evolved incredibly. And I think, you know, the animators and everybody at Pixar are probably just as excited, if not more, than we are about it.
Yeah, kids today will never know.
I know.
Like, do you remember Tin Toy? The baby in Tin Toy?
Maybe. I'd have to...
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. Pixar is it may be their first digital short they ever did, just to like demo the technology. It was about a little toy, funny enough, running around a baby's bedroom, but there is a baby in it, and it is... I'm a big Halloween Horror Nights fan, and I think that this baby would fit in Halloween Horror Nights. It is terrifying.
I remember the short, but I can't picture it, but now I have to go back and I have to look, because I'm sure it was not good.
I'll say this, we've come a very long way.
Yes.
Well, anywho, so the antique shop, when Woody sees Bo's lamp that she used to stand on all the time, but she's not there, we are introduced to not only Bo, of course. Well, actually, no, we're not even introduced to Bo.
No, because she's not even in the antique shop.
Oh, yes, she has jumped ship, but we are introduced to Gabby, and I keep forgetting his name. Winston? Benson.
But I don't know if they're all called Benson or if just the lead one is called Benson. But
they're all scary.
I don't like them, so I don't care to know. I don't need any more details.
So Gabby, she, what I was alluding to earlier, and I guess now we can kind of like pick apart more here. You could see on the poster, like I'm looking at the poster right now on my iPad, and she looks menacing. And of course, Benson and his henchies look menacing as well. So you're like, okay, she's the villain. And what I was so afraid of, I'm like, we're going to do another Prospector. It'll be another Prospector. It'll be another Lotso. Because I think that Lotso and Prospector have a lot of similarities. But that's not what they did. In the same way, she wanted to be loved. But I think what I loved so much was that they showed that a villain, who she kind of started off a little villainy.
Yeah, she wanted to cut Woody open. So yeah, I would call her a little bit of a villain.
Yeah, she wanted to cut him open. She was using very aggressive tactics to make that happen.
Yes.
But they took it in a way to say, hey, bad guys aren't inherently only bad guys. I've got a really big problem in fiction where it is good guy versus bad guy, and good guy wins and bad guy is bad. Because, look, that's not the way the world works. Sure, there are extremely bad and I would say evil people out there, but also there are people that are confused or misguided or maybe even bad people, but they can redeem themselves and they can learn and they can change from that. And when you look at some other characters, like, for example, Prospector, he's just a capital E evil, capital V villain. Whereas Gabby, she just had more going on that allowed her to evolve beyond that.
Yeah. Well, at first I was like, what is she doing? She's asking him these weird questions. When were you made? Oh, I bet you have the same voice box I have. Mine's broken. I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, you know? And then Woody takes off and she ends up with Forky. And just seeing them kind of sit there and she's talking to him and she's asking about Woody, and I absolutely love when Forky's like, I completely trust him. I've known him my whole life. 2 days. And that was so hilarious. But I started to think, I feel like there's more to her. She didn't seem to just be trying to learn stuff about Woody or learn secrets. It seemed like she was genuinely connecting with Forky. And I wasn't sure if I was reading it wrong or they were trying to make you think that. And then, I mean, it gets to the point where she ends up telling Woody her whole story, and then he just kind of volunteers his voice box. I was blown away by that, and I absolutely loved it because it made me fall in love with Woody even more, honestly. You know, he knew he didn't need it anymore. And the fact that we found out when Gabby said she was made that way, she never had a working voice box, so she never had a kid.
Yes.
You know, and she said to Woody, what was it like to have a kid that loved you? And what was it like to have Andy? I learned about Andy from Forky, and I just want to know what was it like? And you could tell that that's what she was looking for. Again, she just wanted to be loved, but she wasn't going to just steal his voice box. At that point, I think she was like, okay, you know, and then he offered it, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Which is what they could have done. And that's what I was sitting there thinking as well. I'm like, oh no, there's going to be a moment, like there's tension here because obviously you've seen Benson and his henchmen be very strong and scary and like they can take it if they want to. And they could have easily have made the movie to be where, oh no, the bad guy won and like they got Woody and oh no, we got to go save him. But it wasn't that. It was a lot more, I don't know, like we talk about how much animation has changed. I sat here watching a toy, a plush toy that is 5 inches tall, have a battle internally, not through words, simply by his facial expression. Mm-hmm. Like you talk about animators, and I think a lot of the times people think animation is, oh, I'm going to make an explosion, or I'll make Iron Man fly, or I'll make, I don't know, like a raccoon talk or whatever. But animation, I think where a large part of that heavy lifting is done is, I mean, for example, I say a raccoon. You are emotionally connected to Rocket. Like, Rocket is a character that I think that a lot of people connect with. He's made out of pixels, and he's a raccoon.
Right.
But somehow, we're all, like, crying when Rocket has an emotional scene with Yondu. And in the same way, we're having an emotional reaction watching a plush toy battle with the fact that maybe his prime years are behind him and he needs to literally pass the torch to somebody else and give them the opportunities that he's been granted.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about them, the two of them together. And, you know, like I said, kind of what my daughter said she learned from Gabby is, oh, you just shouldn't judge somebody before you know where they come from. Like, that's what she keeps saying. And I'm like, you're right. Like, we immediately were like, she's a villain. Something's going on with her. She's crazy. And then you learn, well, she never was loved. She never had a kid. That's all she really wants. She sees this one girl every day, the owner of the shop's granddaughter, every day playing with other toys, doing other things. And she just wants this little girl to love her. And she thinks she needs her voice box for that. And then it's kind of heartbreaking when the girl doesn't even want her. That was awful.
Oh my gosh. And she's so flippant about it. She was like, man. And then she just
threw
throws
her in a box. She was like,
oh my
okay.
gosh.
I was like, no.
Well, I mean.
And then she tells Woody, you can have your voice box back. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that was a gut punch because you talk about the idea of like lessons that like learned that kids can learn from this movie. And I mean, Gabby is a good example, but I think there are other characters in the movie that experience this as well. Sometimes we in life fixate on something or someone. It could be a job. It could be a toy. It could be a movie. It could be a boy or a girl or whatever. Like, you might fixate on something and think that that is the only thing for you. And the only way that you're going to be better and that your life will be better. Oh man, if only I made this much more money, or if only I got to go do this, or if only blah, blah, blah. And seeing the rejection, but then also learning there are there are other opportunities in your life for love and happiness. Like Gabby was fixated on this girl. I can't remember her name, but like
Harmony, I think.
Harmony, yes. She was fixated on Harmony and almost like obsessed about the idea of being with Harmony. She's idealized it. And when she's turned down, she has a really hard time letting go of that, which as adults and kids too, I think everyone experiences that. But to see Gabby then overcome some anxieties and fears that she may have had about rejection again, but then to be embraced and loved by someone that was actually going to love her. I just love that. I love that is a lesson that kids, again, like I said earlier, we're not insulting children's intelligence. That's a pretty heavy theme that I just brought up. But like you just said, your daughter said, like, this is a less, like, the whole idea of not judging someone. These are pretty big themes that they're picking up here.
They are. And then, honestly, Woody talks Bonnie up, like, oh, Bonnie is totally going to accept you. And she doesn't even go to Bonnie. They're on their way to Bonnie, and they see that little lost girl crying, and then it hits Gabby, you know? Oh, this is where I'm needed. And I think... And then the two of them kind of embraced each other. She helped the little lost girl go ask for help to find her parents. And so again, it was not Harmony and it was not Bonnie. It was this other girl. I don't even know that we get her name. We might very briefly, and I'll look for it tonight. But I really, really loved that as soon as she saw that situation, she knew where she was meant to be. And like you said, I think at some points we might get focused on certain things and then we realize, oh, when you see it, you know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she, I didn't really, like I said, I wasn't super into the idea of Gabby walking in, but man, by the end of it, I think she is one of the hearts of the movie, which I think says a lot considering, think about how much screen time we've had with her compared to every other character in this movie. They did a lot with her considering the time that she was actually on the screen.
Yeah, we learned a lot about her, and I think we learned a lot from her too.
So, granted, man, that was a lot of emotional stuff. Let's talk about the fun characters, just the purely fun characters. Ducky and Bunny with the plush rush. I nearly fell on the floor. I was laughing so much. I love this idea, and I love the fact that it wasn't just a one-off joke. It was a bit that kept going on from the cutting to, yeah, we're not going to do that, all the way to the end credits of them turning into Godzilla.
That was so funny.
I want them. And they did their job. They did their job of selling merchandise because I want a bunny and a ducky.
Yeah, me too. I got the pop for Bunny that night because they were giving the Funko Pops away, and I'm like, I need a ducky now. Like I need a ducky.
You need the set.
I do, and they were incredible. They were so funny, and the fact that there was that one quick joke. And then again, and then one that had to have lasted like 3 minutes with them going back to the lady's house when she's asleep. I was
yes.
Where are they going with this? Oh, the same thing. Okay. She's screaming bloody murder now. That's lovely. It was just so funny.
It's crazy to me when you think about, again, you look at the fact that this is ostensibly a children's movie, but then when you pause and look at the talent that is involved in making a movie like this, because you look at like Key and Peele, and obviously their show has been very successful. Keegan-Michael Key has done a lot of really good work on Netflix. He's in a really funny show. He's a great comedian. Jordan Peele's obviously a really funny comedian as well, but of course Jordan Peele has his whole get up right now between Get Out and Us and The Twilight Zone. Like, looking at the sheer volume and I guess range of what people that work on these movies can. I just saw John Wick. I just saw Keanu Reeves in a very violent movie go from that, and then 3 weeks later after seeing that movie, I see him in a comedic Canadian role. Like, these people are really, really talented.
Yeah, it's crazy because they're obviously very versatile, and like you said about Duke, I absolutely love that Duke Kaboom he's so focused on, I let my kid down, so I know how to crash. I don't know how to jump. And I thought that was kind of another lesson, right? He as soon as he crashed, he couldn't make the jump that he made on the commercial, and the kid didn't want him, threw him away. He ended up in the antique shop, and then he always focused on that he can't make big jumps like that. He didn't want to try, and then he makes a massive jump at the end with his eyes closed, which was crazy. And then he yells that it was for his kid. And I was like, oh, that was so sweet.
And also, talk about comedy, the whole like quick flashbacks of him and his kid were meant to like give character development, but also they were just funny. They were shot in like a French Canadian like film style, like
yes,
you know, with a almost like a sepia tone like flashback. I thought that was hilarious.
It was hilarious, and they did its job because I don't like his kid. His kid was mean. I don't remember his name, but I don't like him.
We don't need to know his name. We're better than that.
He's not worth it.
Speaking of some funny bits that just, it's, again, this movie's so funny. The funny bits in this movie, the whole emotional scene between Woody and Buzz, where Buzz is kind of like, hey, buddy, like, I know dealing with Forky is a lot. Like, do you need me to take over? Like, why do you need to do this? And he's like, it's that voice inside me. And the bit of Buzz keeping that going throughout the entire movie.
The entire movie.
Oh my gosh. It is in character for who Buzz is, because he doesn't really know the full construct of his own world, because
right.
I think part of him still thinks that he is a space cadet. But just like you said, with the whole Bunny and Ducky bit of like, wow, they're really still going with this. Oh, they're still going. In the same way with Buzz pushing his buttons to like listen to his voice box speak was just so smart. To
hear his inner voice. And I just liked the one part when he didn't like what it said and he just kept pushing it, trying to get a different response. It all kept meaning the same thing. He's like, oh, all right, I guess I'll leave.
Yeah. And I mean, like we said, Buzz was in it more than I think I remember, but at the same time, he could have been in it more. Jessie had her one little scene of like popping the tire, which is a disappointment. But man, the scenes where we get to meet new characters, like there was one quick bit that I thought was very fun when they were in the sandbox, when Woody was trying to like get back with Forky, and they go in the sandbox and there's all these new types of toys that are just jumping out of the sandbox. Hilarious.
Yeah, and then that one got left hanging, but at the very end he got,
oh my gosh,
he got his high five.
Yeah, they you know, I've thought about this before with screenwriting, that I use this term a lot where I say that script was very tight, or that there wasn't much fat on it. Meaning, like, I've seen so many movies where I'm like, you can cut that, you can cut that, you can cut that. Like, these scenes don't need to be in that movie. What did they add? Inside Out is a really good example for years in my mind, where I go, there's not a scene in that movie that shouldn't be in that movie. Like, everything that is set up is paid off. It needs to be there. And at least in terms of the humor for this movie, there are really good setups and there are payoffs after payoffs. Like you just referenced the whole like leave him hanging thing for like that little G.I. Joe character. The payoff is not only during the movie, but at the end of the credits. Like they kind of pulled a Marvel in making us sit there and go, okay, there's something. There's got to be something, right? Yeah,
and then I'm pretty sure our entire theater like cheered. We were like, yes,
yes, we did.
So you know, that just shows that every single person was. Maybe they forgot about it, but they were actually really invested in this toy getting his high five.
What else is there anything? I'm trying to think of anything other big spoiler. Oh, I know. What am I talking about?
The very end. Yeah,
the very end.
That's probably it.
How did you feel about that? I think I heard you sniffling halfway across the theater.
I'm pretty sure I sobbed like a little baby. I can't even think about it without crying. I feel like I knew, probably about half hour towards the end there. I knew there's a half hour left, like about half hour left. Something's going to happen. And I kind of figured that's where it was going, especially when Woody gave up his voice box. I was like, he's moved on. And then I kind of had hope that he was going to get back. The whole RV thing, which, just speaking of another payoff, the dad's going to go to jail. Fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious. Yes. But the RV makes it back into the carnival, and you see everyone getting, back into the RV, and Buzz stops and looks at Woody, and Woody kind of looks at Buzz, and he kind of looks at Bo. And first of all, I don't know why Bo and everybody didn't. Bonnie would have accepted them. So that would have been my ideal ending. However, Woody, Buzz says she's going to be okay. And I knew it. I thought, oh, he does not mean Bonnie, does he?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
that's when I went, okay. And would he decide to stay? And I think what made it the hardest for me, and I am not going to cry, I will not cry, was when Buzz is the RV's driving away, and Buzz says to infinity, and Woody says and
Oh
beyond.
my gosh.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can't do this anymore. Like, why are they doing this to me? And it just happened to show the friendship, because they couldn't hear each other. Really, they're so far away, and it showed the true friendship and connection that these two had, and I don't know, it kind of broke my heart a little bit.
It's funny because obviously we saw the movie a few weeks ago, and we had our conversations right afterward with some people, some friends, and just chit-chatting about it. Not a whole bunch. And then I just sat there sitting in my own thoughts for a while. I'm like, well, not many other people have seen this. Nobody's talking about it on social media yet. I don't know where people's heads are at. And then the reviews come out, the embargo drops. You write your review, you see the Rotten Tomatoes reviews come out and what have you. And I was very happy to see that the scores were as high as it was, because I think they are deserving. Yeah. But I was surprised because, I don't know, maybe it was just me in the moment where I didn't cry, and I'm a crier. Like I cry in movies specifically. Like that's where I let that emotion out for the most part. And I remember leaving the theater and going, that didn't make me cry. And I don't know why it didn't make me cry. That's so peculiar, because you would think, because Toy Story 3, I was a wreck. Like I needed help after the movie. Like it was rough. And it didn't make me cry. And I think I think I've thought a lot about this, and I think the reason was, for me personally, is that it almost didn't feel like the characters were being true to themselves. Caitlin brought this up to me originally, and she was the one that like kind of pointed this idea out to me, that why would Woody do that? Yes, he loves Bo, and Bo's everything, but like you said, Bonnie would have accepted Bo. Bo could have gone with them, and to me, and like this is what we were discussing a couple of days ago, was the idea that, well, Toy Story at its heart, if you think about, boil all the water out of this thing, you've got a friend in me. And it is friendship, and it is camaraderie, and it is the gang. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier about not getting enough of the gang. This is the story of Woody leaving that gang, hence why he's not really with the gang for the most of the movie. And I just don't know whether or not that jives with me. I'm not saying it was the right or wrong decision, but I think that explains why I didn't cry that much, because I just sat there and going, but why does he have to say goodbye? I don't. Why not just go? Can't we all just live happily ever after? So that was my hang up, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think that the lessons are mixed, because the lesson could be, hey, sometimes friends aren't near each other anymore. Like two of my best friends live in North Carolina and New York, and we don't get to see each other that much anymore. We only see each other a few times a year. So that's part of life, and you grow apart, and you won't be next to each other all the time like you used to be. But then the other part of me goes, well, is the lesson that you can't have love and friendship? Because well, Woody chose love, but he also loves his friends. So I was just so conflicted walking out of the theater, because I 90% of that movie I loved. And then the ending just it just didn't stick the landing, I guess is a good way to put it. At least for me personally. I know that a lot of people it has worked for. It sounds like for you it has. Yeah,
I absolutely loved it. I don't think he would have gone if Buzz didn't tell him it would be okay. I think that had a lot to do with it. And I think, like I said, I think he's missed Bo since the moment she left. And as soon as he saw her lamp, it brought back all those feelings. And I think she didn't want to go, and they didn't have the conversation that we saw anyway. But I don't think she would have wanted to go. I mean, she says at one point, why would you have a kid's room when you can have all of this? I think she truly has not only embraced being a lost toy, but I think she's really enjoyed it. And I forget who says the line. It might have been Jessie, but says to Buzz, so is Woody a lost toy now? And Buzz said, well, not anymore. And I think that showed, and for me, that really hit me. And I was like, you know what? I think Buzz, it was almost like it's okay. You can go. And I think it needed to be Buzz who told him that, or I don't think he would have.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think this is potentially a much more complex ending potentially divisive ending than Toy Story 3, because Toy Story 3, it just ends the way it should have, right? Like, Andy's gonna grow up. That's gonna happen, and he can't take toys to college. Like, we all knew it was coming. We didn't want it to because we didn't want to say goodbye, but at the same time, we realized, yeah, people grow up, adults grow, and you can't always hold on to that childhood 100% for the rest of your life. But with this, I think for me, it felt again conflicting. I haven't stopped thinking about it over the past couple of weeks, just because there are moments in which I go, just like you said, you know what, that is a really good point. He he needed to leave, and the only reason he did was because of Friends. So yeah, it's, I don't know. I'm still not sure I can give you a final definitive on the ending in my own personal opinion, but as a movie, I kind of want to see it again because it's really, really funny.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just so funny and scary. A little bit scary. Little parts are scary.
Definitely scary. And it's so funny because I was looking at just the summer as a whole. Kids, I keep coming back to this. Kids never get treated with respect in regards to so many things. But with movies, like, we didn't see trailers because we got to see it at a press screening. But when I go to see a movie, like, I saw Incredibles 2 last year. And I saw it in theaters, and I'm sitting there, and then I'm just bombarded trailer after trailer after trailer of, like, Angry Birds, and then this movie and that movie, and it's all like potty humor and just silly slapstick stuff. And not to say, look, I will typically laugh at some slapstick, but like, kids I think can do more than that, and they think that they can comprehend more. So the reason I'm saying all of this is when you look at this summer, man, if I were to tell, I don't know, like, my brother and his wife, like, they ask, hey, should we go see Toy Story with the two girls? I'm going to be like, yeah, like, rush out and go see that movie, because I don't think you're going to come close to anything like that this summer for kids.
No, you're not. And kids can handle it. They really, truly can. And like I said, I learned there were thoughts I hadn't thought about this movie until my daughters really brought it up. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, I think they get it almost more than adults sometimes. So this is a really just fantastic movie for kids. I think it brought a lot of lessons and a lot of thinking that I think kids can handle and should even do, should sit and think about, well, if you judge someone and you meet someone and, oh, they're bad, well, they might not be, and it's really important to get to know people and learn about people and support your friends, whether they want to hang out with you or go off with someone else, but I think there's a lot of great lessons for kids, and I'm excited to take my girls again to see it because they've been begging.
Oh, I'm sure. It's funny this summer. I mean, maybe not for kids movies, but for movies, I can't find the time to see all the movies that I'm trying to see. I saw Endgame twice, and that blows me away that I found 6 hours in my life to even do that.
Yeah, so. And now it's coming back, so you can go watch it again.
That's true. It is coming back. I really would love to see it take the number one spot. So that's pretty exciting.
That's why they did it. They said, let's take number one, go back out. And they're adding an end credit scene, and I think it's going to be like 8 minutes of new footage. It's not going to be a lot, but I will still go and give them my money.
Oh, absolutely. I have extolled the virtues of this before on this podcast, but AMC A-List, if you have AMC theaters near you, oh man, AMC A-List is my favorite thing. I think we became members in December, and we've been using it ever since. So,
oh, you're lucky. I live in the middle of nowhere, and I have a theater that has 7 screens, and they didn't even play Brightburn, which I'm really upset about because I wanted to see that. I know. So I haven't seen it yet. It's driving me crazy because I love James Gunn.
I was just going to say, I love the contrast between, we just talk about Toy Story 4 for hours, but man, now I just want to nerd out about James Gunn because between Brightburn and Guardians 3, like, we've got a bright future ahead.
And Suicide Squad 2.
Oh, yes, that is true. That is, oh man.
For someone to have DC and Marvel, like, impressive. That's how you know he's brilliant.
Ugh, he's fantastic. Well, Tessa, thank you so much for being on. This has been, I feel like I've learned more about the movie and thought more about the movie and just had more perspective. So thank you so much for being on. This has been a ton of fun. For anyone out there listening, where can people find you?
You can find me at mamasgeeky.com, which is MAMASGEEKY. I know there's several different ways to spell mama, but it's MAMA. You can also find me Twitter, Instagram, Mama's Geeky, YouTube, also Mama's Geeky. I'm Mama's Geeky everywhere, so just search Mama's Geeky and you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, I will put all of those links in the show notes. So if you're looking to find Tessa, you can find her there. Quick reminder, if you're still here, I want to make sure that you know, just a quick reminder about the Pride stickers that I am selling. Again, quick bullet points, selling them for $2.50 each. They are a weatherproof sticker from of the Average Disney logo, but in a Pride variant, so it's very pretty and rainbowy. $2.50, and every single penny that I sell of these will be going to the Zebra Coalition, which is a Central Florida nonprofit for LGBTQ plus youth. So it's going to a great cause. If you'd like to donate and get one of these stickers, go ahead and follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You can find those links in the show notes at Average Disnerd. Shoot me a DM and I will send you the details.
And I can vouch that it's awesome. So they're the best sticker ever. I've seen it in person. I own one.
A true promoter right over here. I love
yes.
it.